Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Belief Cast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires Belief Cast. Thank you once again for tuning in. As always, I can't thank you enough for your support and your belief in me. I know the feedback that we're getting from everyone. They love the episodes, and I'm so blessed. We're so blessed to have these amazing people come on and share their stories with us. And today's going to be no different. But I want to first give a shout out to our sponsors, Maury Nutrition, Wasatch Recovery, Siegfried and Jensen, Thread Wallets, and then the music you heard at the beginning and at the end of the podcast is by my good friend Paul Cardall. He's an award-winning pianist, and I can't thank you enough, Paul, for letting us use your music. You are the best. So today we are blessed to have Dallen Atack in the house. Dallen, thanks for being here today.
You bet. I appreciate it, Todd.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend that kind of connected us, and I'm grateful for him to do that. And we are in for a treat today. I'm going to give a little background on Dallen. He's the executive director of Utah High School Cycling League. It's a nonprofit youth development organization with over 7,300 student athletes and nearly over 4,000 coaches. I didn't realize it was that big.
It's big.
That's massive. Yeah. The league has more participants than any other state in the nation. And you joined the league in 2018 after serving 32 years in the military. I'm actually really excited to talk to you about that because I'm really fascinated with that, for what people go through and the sacrifices made to do those kind of things. So I can't wait to hear more about that. You're a retired Brigadier General, and your final assignment was the commander of the Utah Army National Guard. And then, again, I know you're really passionate about helping young people, believe in themselves, to, build up courage and resiliency. And the list goes on. You've been doing this for, now 6 years, and you just got the passion for making a difference in young people's lives. So thank you for being here.
No, it's great. Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Good to meet you. And why don't we get started?
Yeah. So let's get to know you a little bit. Tell us where you grew up and maybe a little bit about your childhood and your family.
You bet. So I grew up an Air Force and Army brat, to use the term, born in Del Rio, Texas. And my father was in the Air Force, so we bounced around quite a bit. He served in Vietnam as a C-130 pilot, and the family lived in Japan at that time while he was flying back and forth. And then most of my childhood that I remember, so the end of elementary school and into middle school and high school, most of that was in the Washington, D.C. area. And then San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
And then my father was actually stationed here in Utah, so we moved to Salt Lake City for my junior and senior year of high school.
Okay.
So I do get to claim quite a few places as home, but I graduated from Skyline High.
Okay.
Right here in the valley.
Yeah, it's just down the road from us here,
Yeah.
so not too far. Right on. So, So seeing family that was in the military, is that kind of where you got the idea and maybe the passion to do it yourself, or?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
But
Okay.
thanks. And my father would be the first to admit that I grew up with the oldest, and I had 3 younger brothers and a little sister.
Okay.
And my father, at multiple times in his life, usually at one of my military functions, would say that of his 4 boys, I was the one that he least expected to go into the military.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, he did. He used to say, "Yeah, Dallen likes to wear his hair long. He doesn't like to get up early in the morning, and he doesn't take well to authority." So he really didn't see me as he never pushed the military to me. It was just it was happenstance while I was in college. I was engaged, and I was trying to figure out how am I gonna pay for school as a brand new newlywed, and ran into a friend from Texas who said he could get me a scholarship if I joined ROTC. And 32 years later, I was leaving the military.
Well, it's funny how your dad's like, you're the last person in our family that's going to do this, but maybe you needed it the most.
There's
long
probably
hair,
some truth
didn't
to
like
that.
the
Probably some
mornings.
truth to that.
32 years. So obviously your first desire was to help get school paid for and things like that. But did you end up just like falling in love with it, or what was that like when you first started?
Yeah, I'll say it grew on me.
Okay.
There was, in all honesty, the initial reason was to pay for school.
Yeah.
I went to basic training 6 weeks after I got married, and then went through the ROTC program. From there, I was commissioned into the Army as a field artillery officer. So into the combat arms, a branch that I at the time did not want to participate in. I had no desire to do that. But then 6 months at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, getting to know what that entailed, and getting to learn some of the leadership, and just the true soldiering piece, I started to fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And it truly became a passion. And I'd always been, and from my family, I'd always been very patriotic.
Right.
I'd spent a lot of time with my father, and we were always a very patriotic family. But then that feeling of actually serving the nation and serving our great country, certainly did start to set in. So
Sure.
it didn't take long to be fully indoctrinated, if you would, into the love of this country.
Wow. No, thanks for the honesty. That's, I think that probably happens to a lot of them where, hey, I need some help with school because, I'm newly married like you were, and I need help. And this is a good way to do it. And it's neat that you ended up falling in love with it. And, 32 years is no joke. It's a long time. I know this is going to be a big question, or maybe a hard question. What were some of the biggest lessons that you learned being in the military for that long?
Oh boy. I think the biggest lesson for me was when I came to understand that I was part of something that was greater than myself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's that individuality that all of us have, that we love. We love our freedom. We love our ability to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's certainly something that we always still can be. But when there's times of sacrifice and times of struggle, and you're working with, side by side by soldiers, you come to realize that, that your individuality, while as important as it may seem to you, you're part of something greater.
Yeah.
Whether it be, on the gun crew that you happen to be manning, or whether it be, as a commander of a small unit, even though you may be the boss, you're still just a part of something that is greater than, the whole is greater than the individual. And that, that was kind of a hard lesson to learn as a young man. But when it finally took, I really understood what it meant to be something greater than just me.
Wow, that's powerful. You, if I understand correctly, you led over 5,000 servicemen and women. Is that correct?
Yes. At the end of my career, being able to be the Assistant Adjutant General or Commander of the Army National Guard, we had, if I remember right, it's about 5,600 soldiers.
Wow.
So
did that feel like, was there a lot of pressure in that, knowing that you were commanding that many, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
Because I think of that going,
yeah,
wow.
And no, I didn't know them all by name. There's a reason why we wear our name tags on our uniforms.
Right.
But I think the biggest pressure in that role, we were still in a time of our soldiers deploying, going to Iraq and Afghanistan and other places across the world, and knowing that I was going to be calling a commander or calling soldiers and putting them into combat was very high pressure, because in my position at that time, it was to ensure that they were ready, ensure that these units were manned and trained and equipped to go fight, in our nation's wars. And that, that's a lot of pressure, and it's, I'm only able to oversee all that. At that level, I don't get to go down and actually teach them, one by one what to go and do. But, obviously there were some amazing amazing commanders and NCOs in the Army that did that,
Yeah.
and had these young men and these young women ready to go to war.
Wow. I know. I think you had a pretty cool call sign, right? Is that correct?
So there was. We had Hollywood call signs for
Hollywood
a little while.
call sign,
Yeah, little
yeah.
Hollywood, for on the radio. And
Uh-huh.
I guess did Lance or did somebody?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we got to pick those ourselves for a little while, and I gave myself Sandman.
Sandman. Yeah.
I was a big Metallica fan.
Really.
And like the heavy duty, music and Sandman, because I used to say I don't get much sleep, so
Sure.
I'm the Sandman. But
The Sandman. I like that.
yeah, they didn't let us do those very often, but when we did
Yeah.
get to pick our own, that was mine.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny you say that. I'm a Metallica fan as well, and this will date me. But when I was a senior in high school, I watched Metallica open up for Ozzy Osbourne at the Salt Palace.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. It
awesome.
was pretty wild.
Yeah, I've seen Metallica in concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to date me, the first time I heard them, I already had children, so I think I may be a little older than you, Todd.
Maybe a little bit. I don't know. No, that's great. And I'm sure there's so many lessons learned through those 32 years, and I think that spills over into what you're doing now in that cycling league. Maybe talk about why did you want to get involved with this cycling league, and why is this so important, not only just for, maybe having a purpose in life, but what you're doing for these young kids.
Well, to kind of tie into what I was saying just a minute ago about about the military, that truly became my favorite part of the job was seeing these young recruits, these young ladies, these young men,
Mm-hmm.
raising their arm to the square and
Yeah.
committing themselves to the military, and then watching them train and watching them learn to become soldiers, to do
Yeah.
hard things and to build themselves. And
Yeah.
and so I knew that when I retired, I still had to do something that followed that. And I'd been a mountain biker for years, always recreationally.
Okay.
So I've been riding bikes since the early 1990s, and always loved it. It was just a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I had a friend that told me that the position for the director was going to be coming available, and I went home and I pulled him up on the internet, and I was up till 3:00 in the morning just looking at their videos and
Really?
looking at the website. I was somewhat familiar with the league already.
Sure. Yeah.
I live in the Corner Canyon area, and there's
Okay.
a lot of teams that practice up there, so I'd seen them. Would actually help sponsor the league with our recruiting a couple years earlier when the league was brand new.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit familiar, but I didn't realize what it had grown to and what it was really doing for their student athletes. So when I saw that, when I learned that, I knew that I had to be a part of the Utah High School Cycling League.
Yeah. And it's grown quite a bit since when you first joined till now, correct?
Yes, the original founder, Lori Harward, she, absolute entrepreneur, being able to get the thing started.
Yeah.
But the first year that they raced, they were about 320 student athletes, and in 2018 she had grown that up to over 3,000.
Wow.
So amazing work there. And then
Yeah.
and then each year, that we looked at it, we were growing on average about 20% a year. Had a little dip going into COVID, but certainly made up for it the year after COVID. And then last year's the first year that we didn't have this huge growth. I think we may finally be stabilizing a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we'll still have growth every year, but we're at a good spot at over 7,000 kids.
Man. Well, again, that's a lot to manage. It's a lot to keep track of. And so if someone who's listening to this right now may not understand exactly what a cycling league is, would you mind explaining to our listeners what that entails and what that, looks like maybe in each high school or if it's not with the high schools or junior highs or how that looks?
You bet, Todd. So the league itself is a 501c3 nonprofit youth development organization. That's how we look at ourselves.
Okay.
We use the bike, we use our events, we use our races as a culminating effort for all the things that the coaches are teaching their young riders. They're setting their goals, they're going to their practices, they're out there, they're the ones that are doing the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And then we use those events as kind of the see, we told you that it would be worth it.
Yeah.
Is the cool thing with it.
Okay.
But our season actually begins in April. April and May, they get to have a couple of preseason activities to get ready for the year. They're doing some easy rides. They're doing bike mechanics. A lot of the teams go out and do trail work.
Okay.
We do over 15,000 hours of volunteer trail work a year coming out of the league.
Wow.
So these teams are doing that. But and then the actual season starts in June, and that's when the trails and the canyons are going to get crowded with all these young riders. And they're going out and riding, and then we start our race season in August, September, and October. But where the rubber really meets the dirt in this is on those teams.
Okay.
And 96 teams across the state. Most every school has a team where we don't have large enough to be one solid team. They'll make composites where they'll combine a couple of schools together. But we've got some teams that are still single digits, and we've got some teams that are, over 250 racers. Man. And all of that burden falls on our, amazing coaches.
Right.
So you mentioned earlier that we've got, nearly 4,000 coaches. It takes that many, because out there on the trails, we don't want these young riders riding, fewer than, one coach for every six athletes. So it takes that many coaches.
That makes sense.
But these coaches are the ones that are working day in and day out. They are all volunteer. The majority of them are parents. We're getting more and more alumni coming back and coaching, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then we also have a few folks that just love biking and don't have any kids in it, but they just want to come be a part of it.
That's neat.
And absolutely couldn't do it without them. Without the coaches, this league would not exist for any matter.
Right. Yeah. And to have them volunteer to do it, which makes that even more special.
Oh, they're volunteering, right. And some of them I know are putting in at least 20 hours a week.
Jeez,
and that's what makes us different from the normal cycling league. We could go out, put on races, have people pay at the gate, go race, then go home. But this is built around the team.
Yeah.
The values, our mission, our vision are all built around the team, and those coaches, as a youth development organization, teaching these young teens, life skills.
For sure.
As they're on their bikes.
Yeah. I love that. I want to talk about that life skills. I've had a few of my clients in my outside practice who were on Corner Canyon's mountain biking team.
Okay.
And just these were kids who, they weren't into the football, the kind of the basic sports that you normally would hear of. And it was like, you'd see them light up when they would start talking about, hey, I'm on this mountain biking team or the cycling team, and just to see them light up, and I could just tell this was making a really big impact on them. And so talk about the impact and then some of these life skills that you're trying to teach these kids.
You bet. So and you just mentioned something that's really cool about it. You're out on a bike, and bike riding by itself is just fun to begin with, at least for most people.
Right. Yeah.
And we've got some serious athletes. There's a current Olympian who raced on one of the teams here in the state, and I guarantee there's a couple future Olympians that are in the league right now.
Yeah.
They're coming, but we also have athletes that are fast, that are strong, but may not ever go to the Olympics. We've got athletes from every segment of a school's population, right down to we've actually got kids that are on the autism spectrum, Down syndrome. We've had 2 riders that are legally blind, deaf, missing limbs, and this league will provide, and these teams will provide a way for these wonderfully,
it's amazing.
Wonderful students the ability to still be a part of a team. So we reach every gamut of the school, and I think that's one of the neatest things that we're offering in the league right now. Now, I did forget, what was the other part that you asked me about?
Well, just some of the life skills that you're trying to teach them. And
So I think the big one for them is a level of resiliency, that it's not always easy. They get on a bike, these coaches are pushing them. They're setting goals, And, the coaches are very clear to explain, if one of these, young riders says, my goal is to win first place at every race, coach will sit down and say, well, if you want a podium, this is what you're going to have to do at the practices and outside of practices. Is that what you're willing to do? Some of them are, some of them aren't. So being able to teach, these teenagers, expectations. And if you want to expect, and if you want to succeed at the highest level, then this is what you're going to need to do. If soccer is more important to you and you just want to be part of this team, well, let's set this as a goal for you.
Yeah.
For some of these riders, we've got kids that this is the first time they've been on a bike in years, and their goals are just to be able to get a lap, finish one lap on the race course. So let's get you to the point where you can do one lap, and then maybe we'll get you into a category that you can do 2 laps.
Yeah.
Later on in the year. So it's all about teaching them to set their own goals, set their own expectations, and then have a plan to actually reach those. And do this all in an environment that is positive. So when they reach those goals, they're gracious.
Yeah.
If they don't meet those goals, it's still in a positive environment, and they can be dignified about losing, if you would.
Sure. Yeah. Doing their best and working hard. These are some of these things you're talking about, like especially resiliency. It's probably something that you learned probably daily in the military, I would imagine. Do you see a lot of crossover of some of the skills you learned in the military and stuff that you see that goes on in this league?
Absolutely. And I hesitate a little bit to bring it up, but it does tie in so directly. The last 6 years in the military, where I was the Brigadier General, we were at a time in the military where we were suffering a lot of death by suicide.
Yeah.
And, we were losing a number of soldiers every year out of the Utah Army National Guard. And some of the things that I learned, I was able to be on a national panel on, at the time we called it suicide prevention.
Okay.
And I did not like that panel. I did not like being on it. Obviously that we had to have the panel to begin with.
Sure. Yeah.
But I really disliked the way that the military was approaching. We were doing suicide stand downs where we'd go in and have a 2-hour meeting about, about the red flags of suicide and what to do if you feel the risk. All those things are important, but it took those 6 years to kind of change that culture, that mindset away from, let's not look at, how to stop something from happening by saying, don't go do this.
Yeah.
Let's build resiliency in our soldiers. So when bad things happen and when they are down, they know how to overcome that. They've built some habits and some methods to overcome the challenges when they see them. So resiliency is one of my absolute favorite words, and I've seen it in the military. I've seen it work, and my first month in the cycling league, there was a newspaper article in the Deseret News, and I still have it, and I've got it on my slides and I call it my Nika Why, the reason why I do this. And the article was about Harriman High School suffering 5 suicides in 1 year.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I took a picture of it, and I used that on my very first presentation to my coaches. This is why we're here. We are here to build resiliency in these young teens, and the best way to do it in my mind is provide that positive that positive environment.
Yeah.
Get them some exercise, get them in the sun, get them away from their phones, get them in nature, surround them with people that care about them, that will help them in challenges.
Yeah.
And then challenge them.
Yeah.
Make them compete.
Yeah.
Competition, whether it's against another student or against yourself,
Yeah.
that's a wonderful thing. And it's good to not win.
Yeah.
Because then you learn how to compete and lose, and you learn how to compete and win. And these are all things that we're doing in the league. And that's how that carried over. And that's why I wanted so bad to be a part of this organization.
Wow. That's so beautifully said. I love what you for the reasons why you're doing this. I think we all are yearning for connection, and especially the younger generation, where nowadays the phone becomes the central connection in their life, if you will. I once heard that someone said this, I don't know who did, but it's like, we used to look up for inspiration, but now we're all looking down, you know? And
I hadn't heard that one yet.
Yeah.
That's a good though.
Yeah. And so I love that you're doing this, because I think there's a lot of kids who are stuck in that, if you will, and for you to provide this thing. And I love that you're like, we have all levels of ability. If you know, we got Olympians all the way down to, we would have some people who don't have limbs that are doing it or can't see. And I'm just blown away. And I can see how that this would provide such a beautiful, safe environment for a kid who maybe feels like they don't belong, but now, man, this makes me feel like I want to be here.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it's all about that, you know, that connection, that ability for these, you know, these student athletes to connect with peers, to connect with coaches. It gives them somebody to reach out to, you know, when and if they have the struggles. That's the one thing that I did learn. Every suicide that we had, unfortunately in the military, I had to go back and read, you know, the report, the documents that came out of it. And one of the things that we found was in 100% of the cases, that individual had reached out to somebody, but that person didn't know what they were reaching for.
Gotcha,
And that's something so hard, and it's something that I know is going to always be hard on that individual. You know, now you're part of a team. There's a lot of people that you can be reach out, and
right.
and your chances are just a lot better. When you're surrounding yourself with other good, positive people that are trying to do good for you.
Yeah. You know, and I know this, like when I do hard things, it's like, as hard as it is, obviously, when you're going through it, when you look back, it's almost like, it feels like a year's worth of therapy, you know, because I just went through this hard thing and I made it through it, kind of thing, whether it's in competition or whatever. I heard this once. I hope I pronounce this right. Have you ever heard of misogi? It's a Japanese practice.
I have not.
And they call it a purification process, where they pick one hard thing a year to do. A really difficult thing, like push yourself, like you said, challenge yourself. And when you go do that, if you'll do that, at least once a year, pick one thing, it's worth a whole year's worth of therapy for you. And so I've always kind of took that to heart, and I try to do something like that. And so I love what you're saying is, like you mentioned earlier about, you know, the importance of doing hard things, building up that resiliency, that distress tolerance, if you will. That's kind of our language that we would use here, is building up that tolerance around doing hard things. Do you see that is making a difference as well? Just watching these kids, you know, thinking they can't do it, and then all of a sudden they push through it, and like, look, see, you did this.
Oh, every single coach in the league has got a story of at least one of their athletes that just their whole face lights up when they climb, and they finally make it to the top of the hill climb that the team does in the practice, or that they finally clear some rock barriers that they've never been able to, you know, they've never been able to ride over. They've always just walked around it. And just hearing those stories from those coaches absolutely lets us know that it's there. It's neat, both in the military and in the league. You remember better the things that you accomplished that were harder than the easy ones.
True.
You know, these athletes, they're going to be racing, you know, if they race for 6 years and they're doing 5 races a year, I mean, that's a lot of races.
Yeah.
And they'll all kind of blend together, but I guarantee they'll remember the one, you know, up in Soldier Hollow when they were in 3 inches of mud and they were only able to do a single lap because, you know, it took them an hour to get that one lap. Or they'll remember the one that it was 38 degrees outside and their fingers were just felt like they were going to snap. Boy. They'll remember the ones that were the hardest on them.
Yeah.
They may not remember the one that was 72 degrees and they came in 20th place.
Yeah.
You know, that one, that's just another race.
Yeah. So how often, I mean, obviously when the season starts, you know, they're probably riding every day almost. Do you guys set up a protocol or a plan or a schedule for them through the off seasons to, hey, in order to keep up and stay with us. This is what we expect you to do on the off season, or
we actually do have off-season requirements.
Okay.
That we tell the children,
Yeah.
that we do not have contact.
Okay.
We try to give them a break. We honestly would love our athletes to participate in other things as well, but we know that there's a lot of them that really take the cycling seriously, and there's a lot of them that are working with coaches, or coaches will give the riders, hey, if you want to stay on a bike to do a trainer, here's some things that you can do.
Okay.
Or if you want to learn more about nutrition, here's things you can do. So obviously there is that, but at the same time, personally, I think it's healthy to set the bike down for a little bit and go grab some skis for the winter.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Mix it up.
Yeah.
I love that. So what is your future plans in your mind about all this? Is this something you see yourself doing for a long, long time? Do you have bigger plans? You got other ideas you want to do?
Well, that's an interesting question today, because last night I just offered a job to my replacement. I'm actually stepping down as the league director.
I had no idea. Honestly,
it's going to be announced at our board member this evening, or at our board meeting this evening.
Yeah.
We're going to be announcing the new league director.
Okay.
I'm plan on staying on. I'm going to be on the board of directors.
Okay.
So I will still be very involved, but it's time for me to take a back seat.
Yeah.
I've done this for 6 years. I truly feel like it's been some of the best 6 years of my life.
Sure.
But I feel like I've done the parts that I need to do, and it's time to infuse it with some new passion and a new individual. And so even though I'll still be doing it, I'll just be doing it. I won't be the lead man any longer, which is perfectly fine by me.
Yeah. Wow. That's
you heard it here first.
I heard it here first. Yeah. Well, what are your plans? Do you want to get involved in other things, or is there other ideas that you have that you want to do? Yes, that you could share with us if you're.
Yeah. So
okay
right now, I am still. Well, you got to have a purpose still. I can't imagine waking up in the morning without a purpose.
Right.
Why would you even get out of bed? So there's still some things that I'll be looking at. I'm 60 years old now, or will be in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That it's time for me to stop. I'm not going to punch a time clock, that's for sure.
Right.
But I am still going to go out and do something. I am very happy in the nonprofit arena. This has been wonderful, and
nice.
I'm still going to do something. The things that motivate me are I love a good challenge.
Yeah.
I love to see something. I'm not the real entrepreneur. I'm not going to be the guy that goes and starts something brand new, but I'd love to go and find something else that I think I can step into and provide a service to it.
Yeah.
And I've loved working with youth.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved working with soldiers. So there's a couple of things that I'll still be doing some work in those arenas.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. And yeah, it sounds like you kind of found your niche in that area in the nonprofit world, and obviously means a lot to you. I mean, 32 years in the military, I mean, that's a full career, right? I mean, and the things that you've learned and things you've endured and all that kind of thing. And so I think that's wonderful that you're doing that. And I know anyone listening to this, when they finally do listen to this, they're, very grateful for your service and for the things you've done for not only in the military, but for this cycling league. It's obviously you've made a big impact.
Oh yeah. And I'm glad you used, that's another one of my favorite words is grateful. And I, now, especially since I am winding down, in this position, there's some folks that I'm so grateful for. I've got a full-time staff. I've got 6 amazing angels, and well, I'm going to put their names out there in case they ever listen.
Yeah.
But Brooke and Ginger, and Tara and Christine and Courtney and Michelle, and then I've got a Brad as well. I've got one young stud, and the 7 of them have absolutely made this league and ensured the success that we've had. They've been some of the greatest team I've ever had to be able to be a part of them.
Yeah.
And they've done an amazing job for the league. I'm so grateful for them. And then what's really cool is I've during our race season, these are huge events. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
like 4,000 or 5,000 people are showing up. We're
Jeez.
running 3 of them, across the state every weekend for
Man.
8 consecutive weekends, and then we do a state championship. So,
Wow.
so in addition to that staff, I've got 140 seasonal positions that we fill, and
Wow.
and we're this is everybody. We've got former coaches, we've got former racers, we've got folks that just love kids, and they're out there. So our race crew is amazing. They are the ones that are making the events happen. They're the ones that are ensuring the safety and the enjoyment at our races. So our race crew is absolutely the backbone of everything that we do. And I've thanked the coaches already, but again, couldn't do without them. And it's just this community, this mountain biking community, is the most inclusive community you'll ever meet. These are some of the most wonderful people, and it doesn't matter what challenge we run into. I guarantee I just have to make a couple of phone calls, and somebody knows somebody who knows somebody.
Right.
We had a flash flood at our price race last year that completely took out the course in 2 areas.
Oh,
and after one phone call, the race director, got a hold of the coach in the area, and the next morning at 5:00 in the morning, he had dump trucks and bulldozers, filling in the race course. So we had an on-time start at 8:00 in the morning.
That's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing what this community can accomplish when you've got a passion for doing things right.
Yeah. There's power in unity, man, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that was a beautiful shout out to your team. And I know they'll probably listen to this because you're on here. So, but I think that's great. No, it's, again, I often say, where I am today with what I do, it's because I'm standing on shoulders of giants. And I would not be here without people who have, helped me, support me, part of my team too. So I totally appreciate what you're saying. And that's great that you have these amazing individuals around, where you guys are helping each other.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a great ride, as I like to say.
Yeah. If people want to get to know more about this cycling league, or they want to get their kids involved, or if they are maybe considering being a coach or volunteering, or what is the best way for someone to do that?
Our website is obviously a great first step. www.utahmtb.org. Jump on, take a look. We've got how to volunteer. We've got how to join a team. We've got how to start a team. It's all there. How to join race crew. How to be a sponsor. We, you mentioned your sponsors. We certainly have amazing sponsors that help us with our programs as well. So it's all there on that website. And then all of the staff, our phone numbers and emails are on there. So we make it simple.
Oh, good.
If you want to help, or if you want to be a part of us, we're one click away.
Love that. And I'll put that link in the show notes when we go live with our show, so they'll be easily to just go right to it, and we'll make sure that we make it very simple for them to get there.
Good.
Yeah. Well, if one last question, if there's someone listening to your voice right now, some maybe young kid who's struggling, they're feeling left out, they're feeling dark, they're maybe having thoughts of just not wanting to be here, what advice could you give that one kid who's listening right now?
Boy, Todd, I would tell that young listener, don't do it alone. You have somebody that loves you and that cares about you.
Yeah.
And what you're feeling right now is it may feel like it's an eternity, but it's just temporary.
Yeah.
Look for that person that you can turn to. Be it a parent, be it a friend, be it a teacher, be it a counselor, even if it's the Safe Utah hotline number, whatever it is, reach out and find somebody to talk to that you can start to convey what it is that you're feeling, and find the help, and find a passion, find something that you like to do, that you want to do, and start pursuing that one step at a time.
Yeah.
I'd love to say get on a bike and ride, but if that's not what you love to do, then go find what it is that you love and make sure it's something that makes you feel good and is positive in your life.
Yeah. Beautiful advice. I love it. Yeah, because I promise you there's someone listening who's struggling right now, and I love asking that question to my guests because the insight's fantastic and we need to hear it. So thank you. And again, thank you for all you do for this community and for the state, and really making a huge impact on the youth and teaching them these life skills, and especially the resiliency piece. I think that's big. I've noticed with my clients that I work with, they lack that in so many ways because of just certain things, and just they haven't been pushed, and so when they start building that up, it's so fun to watch them, and they're just like, man, I love doing hard things. Kind of thing, right? To hear him say that, you're going, really? Wow, that's a big turnaround, So again, I can't thank you enough and for all you do.
No, I appreciate you having me on your Belief Cast today. This was very enjoyable. It was nice to meet you, and wish you the best in this programming.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. I told you it was going to be a great episode. Dallen Atack. Please check him out and check out the Cycling League. I'll have the website in the show notes. You can go right to it. Again, if you have a son or a daughter, or if you want to get involved, whether it's a sponsorship or you want to coach or volunteer at an event, please check that out and get involved. And it sounds like an amazing thing and making a big difference in people's lives. So thank you for tuning in. I love you guys. Thanks for your support again. Thanks to my sponsors. I love you guys. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. So thank you for supporting me. And Dallen, one last thank you to you. You're the best. Thanks for being here today.
All right. Take care.
Take care.